at the webinar by part of the stakeholder unit located at Wageningen in the Netherlands. I'm sitting here with, my name is Joske Houtkamp. I'm sitting here with Hugo de Groot. And this presentation is also composed by Sander Jansen and Arjan de Jong. It's about the AgMIP Impacts Explorer and about the user-centered development strategy we intend to follow. So, just to start off with some common ground, we will explain shortly the outline. What is the Impacts Explorer? What have we decided until now about that? We will make sure that we use the same terminology, at least in this presentation, about stakeholders and users. We'll go back a bit in the history. What are the expectations of the AgMIP researchers according to stakeholder unit survey? What are the expectations of the stakeholders as expressed in the Arusha meeting? Gainesville workshop conclusions and very recent outcomes of the CLIPS workshop. All, of course, expectations about the Impacts Explorer. And then we go over to the development strategy, which is relevant for Victoria Falls workshop, where we will make a start with this, or actually proceed to the next step, and also explain to stakeholder liaisons how they can contribute. So, the bottom line, what is the Impacts Explorer? The easy or the most simple way of describing it, it's a communication and visualization tool supporting the distribution of project results, insights and understanding to a wider audience, meaning an audience wider than the project members and people who are now related or somehow involved in the project. It will be a reference point for results, highlighting and explaining key messages. It will allow interactivity for improved understanding and data of data and for analysis, so that you can browse and explore these data. And the objective is that it will support decision making. Therefore, the goals are to make research output accessible, usable, and understandable for the target audience. And finally, the objective is to actually impact decision making. But of course, the Impacts Explorer is not the only communication media or tool that will convey or communicate and disseminate the AgMIP research outcomes. There's a whole lot of research output of different types, and there's a wide range of possible users and interested stakeholders, ranging from policymakers to researchers, people from industry, farmers, etc. So, what is the role of an interactive tool, the Impacts Explorer, in making these research outputs accessible? What data are available and are suitable for such a tool? Who are the users and what data and functionality do they need? Oh, and here now we go wrong. As you've noticed, I wasn't able to get my PowerPoint in presenter mode. This should have been first only the green letters and then the orange letters on top. Sorry for this. We intended to show with this slide that there are many different types of support tools now available for researchers or for policymakers or for people who have an interest in research data. For instance, you have expert tools. These are very complex dashboards that experts can work with to analyze data with a lot of interactivity. There are repositories of data, long lists of links and relevant materials that link through to others. There are guidance and support tools, there are monitoring tools, and you can also imagine that there are platforms, so websites focused on community building with forums, case studies, and exchange between relevant actors. And for each one of these types, there are many interesting examples, and it would be very useful to discuss at some point what type the Impacts Explorer should be or could be. Now, to go to this the discussion on what are stakeholders and users, it's been mentioned before, especially in relation to the CLIP workshop that was held in Zimbabwe recently, that there may be a misunderstanding of the terminology. As we use it in the development of the Impacts Explorer, we see that stakeholders are individuals or organizations that will benefit from data and information that is accessible through the Impacts Explorer. And these data are related to the project output, but may also be related to the project itself, so the methodology or the network of users. But the actual users are the persons, the individuals, that will be at their computer using the software, the developed Impacts Explorer, either for their own purpose or on request of a person or an organization who requires data or information that is accessible through the Impacts Explorer. And for the development, development of the Impacts Explorer, both groups are important. We should understand both groups, and the users especially, because they have to be able to use the tool, so use its functionality and understand the data. The stakeholder unit conducted a survey last year, and they asked about the expectation of the AgMIP project members about the research, the AgMIP research results. Who are these results useful for? Well, in the first place, mostly other researchers were mentioned. In the second place, government ministries, and then development organizations, NGOs, extension agents, farmers associations, etc., etc. So the AgMIP researchers in general feel that other researchers are the primary or the target users or beneficiaries from the AgMIP research results. But on the other hand, they also feel that these results are used to inform policy decisions. So it's expected to support especially policy making. The Impacts Explorer is Impacts Explorer is expected to support especially policy making on regional and national levels and other research activities. These are the more detailed outcomes of this survey. These are the answers to the question: rank the extent to which these stakeholder groups will find AgMIP research results useful. And you see there's a clear emphasis on the researchers and national and foreign researchers, and also the ministries and development organizations. And when you get to a sort of a more local level, the research results are expected to be less useful. At Arusha, the Arusha AgMIP workshop last year, we also held interviews with a number of stakeholders present. These were stakeholders that were accompanying the regional research teams. We note they were not, how should you say, we didn't do a proper quantitative analysis, but in general, these are the main messages we got through. There is a focus on local needs and knowledge, and there's also a focus on policymakers. And I included some quotes from the interviews to illustrate these opinions of the stakeholders. For instance, farmers ask where to invest in, how will climate change affect my business? So it's a short-term need they have. And about the policymakers, some stress was put on that the middle layer of government is important. These people are convincing top and bottom layers. So these responses were quite specific. A third opinion from DFID, expressed at the Gainesville AgMIP Global Workshop in the beginning of this year. DFID expresses the opinion that the researchers should not be the users, so we should not focus when we develop the Impacts Explorer on researchers, but on the users working for government at different levels, also on international levels. And they also expressed their opinion that it's important to work with stakeholders to find out what helps them best. Finally, very interesting results from the CLIP team workshops recently. There was a lot more that you can read in the report sent by that will be sent by Sabine shortly, I assume. We already got a preliminary copy. I took some of the information out of there. There is a lot more which is relevant. Maybe we can talk about that later, for instance, at Victoria Falls. You see that in this table there are answers from the stakeholders, 4 originating from national provincial governments, 7 district government, 4 from national NGOs, 7 from local NGOs, and 7 from the research domain. They were asked who do you think are the users of the Impacts Explorer and whom to communicate answers to. But I must stress that at the time, these stakeholders did not yet have a clear picture of the Impacts Explorer. So for them, it proved difficult to answer these questions. But nevertheless, their answers are relevant and interesting. As you see, they mention a wide range of users, ranging from government, researchers to agro dealers and farmers with internet access. And also in the end, they see that policymakers and farmers should receive the messages. So there's some consensus on that second question. The stakeholders were also asked which questions should be answered by the Impacts Explorer. Well, I see a sort of a trend that research seems to ask for data. You see that in the column at the right, like temperature, rainfall data, crop livestock data, whereas the other stakeholders seem to ask for high-level information, answers to more complex questions, really. And the type of data for the Impacts Explorer they would like to see, or they expect to see, are listed here. And here we get a bit more grip, I think, on data sets that are expected, like pests, diseases, temperature increase, decrease, but also, again, higher level information like case studies, success stories, lessons learned, coping strategies. So our conclusions. We've shown some different expectations, different groups that were involved until now in describing their expectations of the Impact Explorer. We still have not made a decision, so this is something we have to discuss shortly. Will it be a tool for researchers? Will it be a tool for professionals engaged in policy making, decision making? Will it be both? Or is it addressed at other groups, at other target stakeholders? So to get to this, to get through this question and find answers, we need a strategy. So we are sure that the eventual Impacts Explorer meets the needs of users other than researchers, and also will support different user groups if possible. For this, we propose a development strategy called user-centered design. It ensures that the design of the Impacts Explorer is based upon an explicit understanding of users, their tasks, which means activities, the things they want to do with the Impacts Explorer and with the result, and also their environment. There are a few characteristics of this methodology. Users are involved throughout design and development. The design is driven and refined by user-centered evaluation, and it is iterative. So we go through several phases of refining and improving. Where are we now in this strategy? Still a little bit at the beginning. We're working at determining the users and user requirements, and determining the main outputs that AgMIP can produce concerning data and information. We'll go to the user and user requirements first. In Victoria Falls, we intend to determine the scope. How we will do this, it's called a PACT analysis. PACT stands for people, activities, context, and technology. We will do this in Victoria Falls with the stakeholders and the stakeholder liaisons, and we will explain it better and more deeply to the stakeholder liaisons, so they can explore these same topics in their regions with their stakeholders and users. First step is to identify and understand the stakeholders and users. Second step is to identify their activities, when and how will they use the Impacts Explorer. Third is the context. Do the organizational and policy context support or determine the use of the Impacts Explorer? And if so, how? And the technology. What about accessibility of the Impacts Explorer, the platform, the software, internet access, etc. So the people. First step is identify and prioritize. Who are the most desired stakeholders, so the target group, the most desired users, target users, the most likely stakeholders and most likely users. We should make this distinction explicit. It's often confused, and it's relevant because if you have certain stakeholders that have a high interest and also a high influence, they may be a key player in this project, and this is important for the success of the project and the success of the Impacts Explorer. If we've identified them, we should consider their level of knowledge, their level of expertise, their experience with similar tools, familiarity with English, and many other characteristics, also demographics. We will probably use a similar matrix as was already used by Wendy Lin and Amy in their survey. I will not go too deeply into the other steps of the PACT analysis. We will do that in Victoria Falls, but we will go through a list of questions and exercises to find out about the activities that the users will want to conduct with the Impacts Explorer. This will result in user scenarios for which we can derive requirements. We will go more deeply into the context and into the technology. So for instance, I've already read a couple of times in the report of the CLIPS workshop that people were asking about mobile platforms. Well, maybe we will not be able to answer to this question or develop something for mobile platforms, but at least this question should be discussed and addressed. There are many challenges still. What are the commonality differences between the research outputs of the regional research teams? So do they determine also the Impact Explorer and its how it's going to look like and how it's going to be used? Are there differences in the decision context in different countries? So will there be different target users? And then, of course, how can we design the Impacts Explorer to manage the diversity in input and output, and also the diversity in users? We will go a step deeper there and develop for the users by developing personas, typical users. The persona is a fictional character representing an important user group. And they help not only the developers to build interfaces that support these typical users, but they are also good communication tools within the project. So the people who will be delivering data to the Impacts Explorer will also have in their minds for whom they are producing their data and what format they will be producing it, for whom it will be usable and understandable. And when we have these personas, we can write short scenarios, stories, how a persona uses the intended application. This is an example persona from a different project, I must say, but it's a bit similar about agriculture. In this case, a lady policy officer at the national level at the Ministry of Agriculture in Ethiopia. So this is a non-existing persona, but a typical representative user. We developed a persona like this with a description of her job and her information need, the assignments she is on, and then how she starts using the application. And we will do this for the Impacts Explorer with regional teams. We asked the same question on personas at Arusha also last year. These are typical users in the view of the stakeholders that were present in Arusha. Some of them were modeled after themselves, so they were very similar to their own person and job descriptions. But some also said, no, I'm not a typical user. I would suggest, well, for instance, a professional concerned about water stress in relation to climate change and agriculture. So it is we have a choice at Victoria Falls how to deal with the input of the stakeholders, either asking themselves how they would use the Impacts Explorer, but we can also ask them to describe a typical user in their view. And both are very, you get very information-rich answers in general. So now I leave the microphone to Hugo, who's going to say more about development strategy requiring the data.
Yeah, thank you, Joske. I will. You already not. It's okay. Yeah, it's. I will tell you something about the data. It will not be as long as the Joske's contribution, because unfortunately, so far, our search for data did not really succeed. I was in Gainesville at a global workshop, and of course, I saw there all the presentations from regional teams. And I noticed that all the teams were ready with uploading their data, or were almost ready to do so, to upload the data. So at that moment, I thought I will wait a little bit, and in 1 or 2 months, the data should be available. So I expected that the data could be found on the AgMIP site. And unfortunately, uploading the data is not the same as releasing the data. I learned from Cheryl that the teams did not release the data to be published on the website. So it means we will have to find other ways to get access to the data. I checked for the book chapters on the internet, but unfortunately they are copyrighted, not open accessible. The crop site, the database, they are not yet released. I checked also the AgMIP Pakistan site, but no data download available. Well, is this a problem? Well, it's a little disappointing that I don't have access to the data yet, but it's not really such a problem now, because we first want to have a clear vision on which way we want to go with the Impacts Explorer, and with the user-centered design. What comes out there is the most important. We don't want a push strategy to just publish what we have and let people see what they can do with it. Our plan is to go working with regional teams in Victoria Falls to ask them which data they will have available, and I think it's good to have a clear explanation from them with focus on what we think the users need. We have made our expectations about data. We expect that there will be data available for a region, which can vary in size, but it will have a geographical component, and for a number of years, so it will be a time component. And we expect data on crop yield, areas of major crops, plus the changes. We expect data on farm income, farm labor, and change percentage. We expect data on temperature and rainfall change and projections, CO2 change, and other climate data. So, we expect that the changes have been calculated with the models due to climate change scenarios, climate adaptation packages, and the representative agricultural pathways, the RAPs. So that's the data we expect and we can expect from AgMIP phase 1. the Impacts Explorer will focus on disseminating the data from AgMIP phase 1. Well, that's part of the job description of given by DFID, and also when we want to develop something, we cannot wait for the outcomes of the work that still has to be done in phase 2. So we'll focus on disseminating the outputs of phase 1.
Hugo?
Okay, and that was the first part of my contribution. Then I hand over to Joske.
Yeah, I realized the omission, so I'll go back a little. If you
Hugo, there was a comment from Cheryl. Did you see that?
Yes, I saw a comment from Cheryl, for Cheryl, thank you, that the phase data will be accessible to the AgMIP crop site database in the coming months, with exceptions of some restricted weather data. Okay, that's great, Cheryl. We have to talk in Victoria Falls what that means, because the coming months, multiple is they have to see what time period it will take. And I think there could be a lack in the type of data for crop modeling. There will be quite something available, but for the economic modeling and climate change, I don't know if that will also be available in a standardized way. But we don't need to explore that now in deep. We can talk about it in Victoria Falls.
Okay. Back to my omission. I forgot to stress, and it's important to repeat that of course we're not going to reward all the users when they have very difficult questions or impossible questions. So we have to find a match between what the project produces, with the type of data, the kind of data, and the volume, and then see where that matches the user needs. So that is the step you can see just behind the arrow, or beneath the arrow in June 2004. That's 11 years ago. Sorry, 2015. Match and select. Okay, back to the design. We're almost at the end of the presentation, by the way. How are we going to design for different user groups? We are now aware that there will be a variety in user groups, although we cannot serve all of them. But there is a way to answer at least to the demands of some expert users and non-expert users to some extent. We'll have different levels in the AgMIP Impacts Explorer. There will be a simple sort of landing page or landing pages that provides general information on the project and guides interested users to the pages that are relevant for them. Then there's level 2, which shows the main results of the project and regional case studies. We expect that the key outcomes are shown in the Impacts Explorer visuals, and they should be understandable for users with general interest, with some agricultural background, but no in-depth knowledge of climate scenarios and modeling, etc. So these could be, for instance, policymakers that are not experts. And then there will be a sort of a drill down tool, third level, the Impacts Explorer interactive tool for more expert users who have more extensive knowledge of agriculture and understanding of modeling. And of course, this is just a first description. These levels or the types of users may vary a little over time. We have some examples from other projects, other interactive tools that we're developing. This is an example from the Benchmarking Atlas project. This is what we call the level 1 general information. It states what the project does and who is this information for and what can you find here, what kind of case studies. If you go to a specific case study, you'll see a summary page or summary pages in a strict format. What do these maps tell us? Why are they important and how did we obtain the results? Key messages and very clear and easy to understand visuals. So these are selections, information made by the project members and the data providers. Then you can explore these a bit further, and if you want, you can go to the drill down tool. In this case, it's in an atlas format, in maps format, and you can explore all the other case studies and all the other data sets. And the second example, it's a bit different from a European project, TopDat research project. It's about climate adaptation strategies, so a little different, but nevertheless the design for the site might be similar. Again, a general info level, main project results. Here you see a case study on flooding in London. If you click through, you come again to a summary page with selected visuals and explanations, key messages, very clear key messages. What are the main results from this case study? When you click on this graph, you go to the interactive tool, the data exploration tool, and you immediately get the same data as you saw here, so you're not lost suddenly in a difficult to use dashboard. And from there, you can use the data exploration tool, access other data sets. So this is what we now have in mind, to create a tool that's useful for different types of users with different interests and levels of knowledge. So the final slide, Victoria Falls workshop. What are you going to do? There are some workshops especially for the Impact Explorer. With the stakeholders that are present, we will go through the PACT analysis and hopefully also persona development if there is enough time. We will explain to the SLs, the stakeholder liaisons, how to conduct these analyses or these techniques, how to use them. And we will also provide templates for output, because of course it's important that we get similar, for the development we have requirements and questions in a similar format. Our objectives for the workshop are therefore input for the Impact Explorer development, increased knowledge on interactive tools for data exploration, and also consider how these instruments may involve future users. So it's not only, that's very important, Impact Explorer is not only for distributing data, it can also be a mechanism to involve users in the development and also in future, well, perhaps consequent projects. So I give over to Hugo again.
Yeah, with respect to data, what do we want to do in Victoria Falls? Well, we want to check with the teams what is available, what can the teams deliver based on the phase 1 results, determine the first set of major indicators to visualize together with the teams and with the leadership, and define the link between indicators, key messages, and model output. So we have an example there. Is the change in maize yield a relevant indicator for a key message? Or needs this to be supplemented with auxiliary data on area of maize, contribution to farm income, representation of maize farmers, across farm population, fertilizer use, etc. Well, asking this question, posting this question is answering it. We think that additional auxiliary data are needed, and I got a comment from Sabine, who also pointed this out. I think additional data that are available from other organizations are helpful and needed and important to support our key messages and to let users explore the data and find out new important messages that could come out there. And that's also what we emphasize with our key messages. Let's see how they were constructed and give people input how they can use the website to start exploring their own questions. But at this moment, we for the data we focus on what is available from AgMIP out and AgMIP 1 output, because of course that is clear that will be our starting point, and based on the feedback from the users, we will explore other data sources as well.
Okay, well, time for questions. And oh, I should say that although you may hear us loud and clear, we had some difficulty in hearing other people participating in the webinar. So if we cannot hear you, you can perhaps type your question in chat.
And I have a question here from Ken Booty. If researchers are not significant users, what's their motivation to participate, especially if you will be wanting data from them? I'm concerned about cutting out the researchers. Well, the message that we should focus with our design on stakeholders and on policymakers comes from DFID. So it does not mean we cut out researchers. It's just that the way we present the data will not be in a way that researchers that will serve researchers the best. But when you go to the drill down team and explore all the data we have, I think that's the space where researchers can fill their hearts and go really look into it. So with the design, with the way we present it, we don't focus on researchers, but researchers are, of course, people who will use this tool, and especially the drill down tool. Okay, are there more questions? Please chat them to Hugo. There's a remark by Alex. Alex thinks there has to be a good storyboard for walking through the data. Yeah, it's a good remark, Alex, and I think others can also read it. Maybe we can talk about it in Victoria Falls. I don't think we have to solve all these questions now.
Sorry, okay. It's too small for me to read, and my reading glasses make it too big. Sorry. I feel it's important to have a good storyboard. Yes, yeah, sure. We will. It would be really interesting to sit together and to draw a couple of these. Yeah, that's great, Alex. To draw a couple of these storyboards for steps and how people may use them. I hope also from the scenarios.
And we will discuss it in Victoria Falls.
Yeah. I hope that from the scenarios we will get some grip on the type of questions and how people expect to explore these data. I've noticed from other projects that users often want to make combinations and comparisons, visual comparisons, and go back a little and go forward. So let's work on that in 2 weeks' time. Do you have any more questions?
Okay, Sherry asks.
Please read all the questions for them. Okay. Well, Hugo, go ahead.
Next question by Alex. Alex is eager for our thoughts on how we might eventually use the core questions as a guide for our presentation. Okay. Yeah.
Core question?
Hey, I'm going to shout into the phone. Can you hear me?
I hear that you're there, Alex, but I can't hear what you say.
Oh. Anyway, I know I'm going to shout. Hopefully somebody will hear. But I've been asking many questions. I think my main point is we have more than just a data presentation. It's a story presentation, and that is a big challenge, I think, as we're doing this. And we've tried to build the project in a conversational way in terms of how we would respond to stakeholder questions with the core.
Call has been put on hold. Please wait.
Okay, I have some sharing by Sabine here. Sabine thinks it's challenging to make non-scientists understand the difference between users and stakeholders. Maybe there is a better way to clearly illustrate that.
We'll do our best, Sabine. It's difficult because we're used to this terminology in system development, so it's quite a change for us. But let's work on that in. You've noticed it before that it was confusing in the workshop you held, so it's a good point, and we'll see how we can manage about that.
Then we have a question by Harbier. Can we create different levels of data access in the Impact Explorer for researchers, policymakers, farmers, etc.? Yeah, we can think of, but it multiplies the work, and we have to see what is possible within the budget. Another opportunity when we think about accessing farmers is to go for a mobile application. We also have experience with that, so it's an opportunity to decide to do another opportunity, a possibility to decide to allocate a portion of the money for that, but we have to see if what the needs are and if the budget allows. But it's a good question, but I think the answer will be limited by the resources.
And also, it's not only the resources of the developers here and the designers, but it's also it will be quite a challenge for the researchers and the regional research teams, because they will have. It's actually they that will have to deliver their outcomes in different formats. So they will have to write simple key messages, more complex key messages, more extensive stories, deliver the data in a specific format, because that's not something that we can do for them. We can provide formats or templates, but delivering all these different results in different formats is quite a challenge. But also there, it is necessary and it's very important. It's important for the impact. So let's see again where we can prioritize and where we can make a start, perhaps with 2 different types or 3, and see if we can build it from there.
Okay, we have next question by Caroline. The phase 1 data should all be available to the AgMIP data repository, currently hosted by University of Florida. So access to the Internet Impact Explorer. Well, you're right, Caroline, but the data will be available on the data repository in raw format. And what we do with the drill down tool is make a visualization of it. It will be a visualization tool, and where you can really play around and explore the data much faster and better than downloading the JSON files and do something with them yourself. That will be a hard job for most of the people. So I think the visualization and the possibility to walk through the data is a key functionality of the Impact Explorer. A question by Sherry. Are you planning for the Impact Explorer to use the results from preloaded simulations, or are you planning to have it run live simulations the user chooses? We will not run live simulations. because that would mean that on the website we have to configure and run all the models that have been used throughout all the projects. That's not feasible. So it will be preloaded and simulation run results selected and preloaded. Yeah. Okay. Karen answers that she agrees the visualization aspect and not accessing raw data. That's an important point. Ken Booty asks, who are the persons who will be writing the storylines?
That's a good question. Yeah, we need a sort of a content manager, I guess, for this for the whole site. The format and the template should be designed, I guess, by a number of people knowledgeable of the topic, but also knowledgeable of the users, the intended users, and then the content, the actual results, should be contributed by the researchers, I think, and also checked for quality and validity by the whole AgMIP project. But if you have another idea on this, please share it with us, because we're still in the dark about this.
Okay, the next question is by Mina. Quantifying of data is very important. I showed in methodology of 5 points, scale ranging from 1 to 5, as per preference for stakeholders. So it is 2 extremes of likeliness. 1 is less preferred and 5 is most preferred. 3 is undecided. It will be clarified. Okay.
I'm sorry, is it a question or is it meant as a contribution?
I think it's a contribution.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, okay.
I don't see more questions popping up. So a question by Carolyn: will different pages of Impact Explorer be developed for regions? Yes, there will be an entry point by region and an entry point by topic, and so you can go to a region and see the key messages and results from that region. That's what we've got in our mind, yeah. A question by Alex: what types of information pages will you need from the AgMIP PIs as opposed to regional teams? I don't know if I understand your question well. I don't see such a difference in what we should ask from PIs and regional teams. So if you can explain that. A question by Carolyn: do you have ideas on how stories will evolve, or are we going for a static tool to demonstrate the concept? Well, we have experience with projects and developing websites. Of course, there's always the intention to keep it alive and to keep updating the pages in the data, but that has to be organized. If that is not organized by the project, the rate of new data that will arrive will slow down and disappear in the end. At the moment we have a budget to develop it, and we can think of a business case how we can seek ways to keep it alive in future, but we don't have ideas on that at the moment, as far as I know. Sander might have, but we can talk about it also in Victoria Falls. Ken Booty asks, it would seem to me that the climate team could provide a good service to provide more regional climate information, past and future projection for larger regions. This differs from the small farm survey needs for weather. Yeah, I agree on that. If that information can be produced, it will be valuable to show. Alex asks, will we have an overview page describing the entire project as opposed to the South African team page, for example? Likewise, will we need the pages describing climate approaches taken everywhere? Yeah, there will be an explanation of the project on the methodology part of the website, but we don't have a clear view at the moment what should be there. But yeah, we can talk about it and explore that. But there will be a methodology part where the background and the methodology of the project will be shown. Okay, I don't see any more questions popping up, and we have a couple of minutes left. I would like to thank everybody for the participation. Yeah, quite some interesting questions have been come up. We raised some questions that we want to discuss in Victoria Falls, and also the new questions raised. Well, we already concluded that we can discuss that in Zimbabwe. So we're looking forward to a very fruitful meeting there. And thank you all, and hope to see you in Victoria Falls.
Yes, thanks also, and thanks for all your input. We'll be working on this for the for next week, and of course be well prepared for Victoria Falls, and look forward to all your ideas and discuss them there. Okay, we're going to log off now.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.